Would you please introduce yourself?
Me? I'm Sean O'Connor. I'm a professor of psychiatry at the Indiana University School of Medicine.
All right. And how long have you been involved in alcohol research?
Oh, since I went to medical school. My dad died while I was in medical school of an alcohol-induced fall down a flight of stairs. That was hard. But the school I went to, University of Connecticut, had an alcohol research center, one of the very first centers, and got me involved and sponsored some of my research as a junior faculty member. Between those two, I settled into it and never left. I just enjoyed the field. The disease is important to me, so it got me unsuspectingly from both ends.
Oh, were there other influences along even in your, say, your adolescence that guided you along your research path?
Well, I'm an engineer. I was trained in control systems engineering, never thought of medical school. But I went to work for Sikorsky Research and Development and flew gigantic helicopters. The pilots would not fly them at the speed they were capable of going because it was dangerous at those speeds. So we invented a system to press on the stick to tell the pilot that it's okay. We'll communicate with your brain about what you're doing and how you're doing. And it worked. They flew faster. It was good for everybody, but we didn't understand why it worked. We made it work. We didn't, like a lot of engineers, we didn't know why. So I was invited off to Yale to learn about adaptive control systems and studied, intending to go back to Sikorsky. But a neurologist convinced me that with my interest in how to communicate with the brain, that being a doctor or working for a doctor was a choice I had to make. There was no bioengineering at the time. It was too early. So I went to medical school. And then things happened in medical school that brought me into psychiatry. Psychiatry was the only discipline that would accept the notion of the brain as an adaptive control system as a formalism for study. Neurology wouldn't listen to it. So psychiatry said, we don't know how it works, come on in and figure it out. So I stuck with them, had a good time. What other influences along the way? Picking a disease. If you're going to do research in medicine, you need to focus on one disease. I wasn't good at focusing at the time, but alcoholism turned out to be a common bad disease that needed help. And so I was welcomed into the field and felt happy being there.
That path makes a lot of sense. This is a bit of an aside, but did you get to meet Mr. Sikorsky?
I did. He was my childhood idol. From the time I was 10, you got to have idols, so I had it. I went to work at Sikorsky in the summer of my junior year at college at Cornell, and he was still there, and I got to work for him directly.
All right, go Big Red.
Oh, okay, yes.
Sorry.
Sorry. Yeah. But I got to work for him directly for a summer, and then he passed on. So I finished school and went back to Sikorsky as a neurotic but happy thing to do. It was good.
Mm-hmm. And what challenges have you faced as you go along you've gone through your career path?
Oh, growing up, immaturity, death of my folks, some skepticism from colleagues who didn't think what I was thinking was useful, some incompetent mentorship. As a junior faculty member, they weren't listening to me. They were telling me what they thought I should do instead of what I wanted. Cost me time. That's it. I had a lot of support. I don't want to put it down. That was just, but it was challenges. It's not that.
So I'm thinking people, some especially junior people, may benefit from hearing how you dealt with the collegial, the skepticism from your colleagues.
Trying to articulate. I've known I've known some important researchers in alcoholism who stuck to one principle their whole career and defended it and pushed it and learned from it. But I just don't do that. I try to listen to things I learn that I didn't expect to. When I do a study and the findings answer a question, but they reveal other questions, those are the ones I chase. To me, that's science. It's not to prove what you know, but to go explore what you don't. So that was the most consistent aspect of skepticism, was I would try to ask new questions that weren't along the line of what we were working on. They were tangential, but they were actually getting somewhere. So that was I dealt with skepticism. I'm not I'm anything but always right, but I'll try. And if it's a new idea, I try to listen to it. So
one of your, maybe not a secret, but one of your strengths is keeping an open mind and following data.
yeah, I think science is that. I mean, what are the important questions? Is it an essential part of science? Not what your answer is, but what are the most important questions? That's not just essential, it's fun. It's exciting, yeah? That's how you learn. Keep on learning. I'm still learning, so great.
Good. What brought you to Indiana?
I was chief resident in psychiatry at UConn, stayed on as junior faculty, kept acting like chief resident, having a ball, but not focusing on anything. When it came time to get tenured, I discovered that, well, all the people who recommended you don't need that, turned out they were tenured, and I missed it. So started looking for alternative, and I wasn't going to get on the tenure track at UConn. So where else? So by the time that was happening, I've been roped into COGA, Consortium on the Genetics of Alcoholism by Henry Begleiter and T.K. Lee. And Indiana was welcoming me with my electrophysiology expertise and my background and my purpose to come out there, and recruited me out there to do the same work, moved over. But also administering alcohol in new ways, something UConn wouldn't let me do, but Indiana was easy to try. They collaborate. Indiana is about collaboration, not competition. And I enjoy that, being a Midwesterner by birth, so I was back home.
Sounds like a very nice return home.
It was good. It was good.
And would you say something about your work with Joe Christian?
Yeah. Joe was part of the Alcohol Research Center. He had a specialty, he was a geneticist and had a special population of patients, all twins, that he collected over 20 years. So they were entering into their adulthood at the time we were trying to learn about the genetics of influences of alcohol, or the influences on alcoholism. And we tried to give them oral alcohol and see if the identical twins had the same sort of responses as non-identical twins. But we could not find a way through oral administration to have the same trajectory of exposure in the brain. They're just too idiosyncratic. And the reason for that is your stomach holds on to alcohol for variable lengths of time and quite lengths of time. So you can't get past that lag in a predictable way. So one day, that study wasn't going too well. And we figured that in theory, if you go around the absorption system, don't pass it through the stomach, but infuse it directly into the veins, you could control the brain exposure more carefully. And more importantly, the same exposure from person to person. And therefore you could do science with smaller populations like the twins. So we bought a bottle of Everclear, went to the back room in the VA, and infused it into me to see if we could control the exposure, and it turned out we could. And TK had the influence of being associate dean for research and got the IRB to say, okay, we'll do that for research. And it took off from there. We did hundreds of studies recognizing a pattern in the trajectories we were commanding. and what you had to do to infuse to get those trajectories. We built a mathematical model of distribution and elimination. So the computer ended up doing the infusions instead of the people, got away from manual infusion and did it by computer. That let us write a program that people could use all over the world and to do the same stuff. And it evolved from there. We thought it was like a 5-year program of research to accomplish the question we wanted to answer, but people kept asking, could I use it for blank? So far beyond our imagination of what we could ask that it got used and still isn't used, astoundingly, for questions that haven't come up before. So it was just a blast getting to know. It's just a tool. We invented a tool, and people started using their curiosity with that tool to answer good stuff. So it's been work, but it's been effort, not work. It's been a joy. So it's been fun.
So sometimes we have eureka moments.
Yep.
Would you call this one of your eureka moments?
Well, the idea of going, well, you couldn't get IRB approval for the first infusion. That just didn't make sense to people. So I remember feeling the eureka moment while I was getting infused with alcohol. Wow, you can control this. And my notes that I was keeping getting a little sloppier all the time, but it was, wow, this is great. We can do this. And then that physiologic model, that we have 6 parameters in the model that I can adapt to you and to me or to anybody, change the parameters, keep the same outcome so everybody gets the same exposure. That was not so much a snappy eureka, but by gosh, we can put this on a computer and pass it around. We don't have to go and do it. People can pick it up and apply it themselves. That was a eureka moment for my career because we could disseminate it. Could actually not just do it, but disseminate it.
Yeah.
That worked.
Are there any particular collaborators in that effort that come to mind?
Oh, wow. TK Lee had the biggest impact on me. He was Associate Dean of Research and recruited me to Indiana and taught me to focus, teach, take care of people, do research, all in the same thing. Don't do anything else but focus. And by his nature and by the nature of the place, collaborate. Don't try to do it on your own, but work with people. If they have ideas or services to contribute, welcome them. Those 2 things, focus and collaboration, were TK's influence. Henry Begleiter was a catalyst in my career. He came to UConn, gave a seminar, asked an important question. Nobody could answer it, but I caught on and could answer it, and that was worth $500,000 in funding to start a laboratory to follow that line of research. So he sucked me in by curiosity. He helped me get to IU when the going at UConn got tougher. He was instrumental in that. He welcomed hard work with gusto. He was a fun guy to be with, but intense all the time. He was just a creator and would listen. You could challenge his ideas, and he would make you fight for your idea. He was a great scientist. They say he's still with me in many aspects of the results, but he was a great friend along the way. Really was. Look, you, Andrew King, Mark Chuckett, John Nurnberger, Joe Christian, on and on and on, have had a collaborative influence that challenged me, welcomed me, enhanced my ideas, questioned my ideas. It's just been a joy. I mean, I can talk about the mentors, TK and Henry, a lot, but the collaborators, they formed my career. Without them, it wouldn't happen, and you wouldn't get the joy out of it that I have. So.
Some of this you've addressed already. I wanted to ask how your background in engineering has affected your perspectives in research, but also in the clinic.
Engineers are problem solvers. That's what they do. They help they help define a problem and then solve a problem.
Oh, sorry. Let's back up.
Can you say that all again?
Sorry.
Engineers are
Yeah,
I'm going to start over. Oh, yeah.
Yes.
All right. So repeat the question, Norman.
sure. How, some of this you've addressed already, but how do you think your background in engineering has affected your perspectives in research and the clinic?
In important ways. We're problem solvers. Engineers solve problems. We focus on a particular issue. So there are problems in both the research and the clinic in alcohol studies. And that's how I approach those things. In the clinic, I worked at the VA to take care of 10,000 alcohol-dependent people in my career. We created an outpatient clinic. The problem was the VA had an endless flow of people that needed help, but they had a referral system that let you, as a primary care provider, make a referral to my group that was 6 weeks out without telling the patient, your patient, why he was referred. So he'd get to the clinic and say, so what are we up to? And we say, well, your physician thinks you might have trouble with alcohol. They would get up and leave. They were resentful and just didn't prepare. So which was a big deal at the VA, ignored the referral system. We just didn't take referrals. Just told all the primary care providers, when your patient gets here, we'll have them in treatment the same day. Well, you have to get them here, and they have to show up wanting treatment. So the number of people we had in treatment tripled. The average length of stay doubled, and we were very successful in treating a lot of people. So problem solving at the administrative level was clinically important. The system, VA has a very rigid system, and dealing with that was take a stance, understand what you're doing, take a stance. So that was important clinically. Treating people as individuals, getting an individual treatment plan with 3 problems to solve, focusing on their own problems, and paying attention to that goal made a big difference in the outcome as well. So clinically, I really value what the patients taught me. The brain, look, I believe the brain is an adaptive control system that looks at challenges and questions and decisions and adapts to their environment and controls your safety and progress. The patients thought that too. They thought they had given up alcohol at the peril of their future. I mean, how do I say that? You are, as an alcohol dependent person, somebody who's past the easy time to quit, faced with a terrible decision every day. Do I stop drinking today forever? Or do I go on just one more day forever? And that's what they're faced with as a life every day. And some of them go on forever. So how do you help people make a decision now about the value of their future self, as opposed to what they feel this afternoon and withdrawal? Is the stuff of good treatment. Have people see themselves, focus on their opportunities and challenges, and make a decision. And that worked. So is that engineering? Yeah, that's engineering. It's setting up a problem, focusing on the solution, and sticking with it. That's good engineering. So there, it helped. That and knowing computers back in the day, in medical school, there were no personal computers. There was a rudimentary internet, 3 sites talking to each other, but that was all. It was good to have math training and computer training. Mm-hmm. By the way, it's a requisite for doctors not to have calculus. You can't become an MD if you know calculus, because they can't conceive of the idea of a rate of change. They can conceive of a state. When you try to differentiate it into time-varying things, their eyes glaze over and they say, don't understand what you're talking about. And that's calculus. That's just math. If you think of the brain as a changing environment, coping with a changing environment, you have to know that stuff. So it was a good time to go into medicine. It would be bioengineering now. I'm not sure what I'd be if I had to do it again, but we'll see.
Mhm. Yep. Good, excellent pitch for engineering. So,
Yeah, it was. It was a good time to be a control systems engineer.
so your perceptions on engineering may, I imagine, will affect the answer to this next question. What would you like to see in the future of alcohol research, and what do you expect to see?
You know, I was thinking about that question in preparation for this a week or so ago. And I was so astounded by how much the field is doing it already at this RSA convention, which we're being filmed at. That's where they're going. How do you get to people when they're on the edge of dependence in the primary care clinic and rescue them at the easy time, as opposed to waiting until they are dependent and then you're swimming upstream like crazy to get them to stop? That's a knowledge set and a skill set that belongs in the clinic and backed up by medications, backed up by attitude that's coming. And that AAA is going to sponsor that. They have I think, a $30 million program to get the knowledge and the courage and the vocabulary into that setting. That's astounding. They're actually a big investment in sensors that pick up your actual drinking. The problem is we can measure drinking in the laboratory and control it, but we don't know how it happens in the real world other than by report. How much do you drink? When do you drink? How does it feel? To get that accurate trajectory in real time as a record in your life and your circumstances, that's coming. And that's a big deal for the studies because you want to get to people before they get in trouble. Acute tolerance to alcohol, that is, I'm going to take a drink and have a response, but I don't get the same response on the second drink, so I drink 2 more instead of 1. And then I don't get the response I needed. So I'm drinking more and more to keep the same feeling. That turns out to be a genetically influenced phenomenon that one of my favorite things to study with the alcohol business I do. And I think the anti-AAA is coming around to that as an understudied phenomenon soon. The biosensors and clinical stuff, tripling the number of medications they're working on because we have so few that are effective. But there are more coming. I really am getting old, and I was getting cynical about progress. But I'm not after watching today's RSA. It's coming. So good. I expect to see these things, and hope to. I think you just look at the young people that are going into this business. You know, they're dedicating their life and curiosity and work. Good stuff.
I hear a theme of optimism and joy, the word you've used.
Yeah, I haven't. The old aphorism, you don't work if you enjoy what you're doing. I haven't worked at all. I enjoy it every day.
You've talked about the relationships with, say, collaborators, with TK, and you have mentored quite a few people. You've mentored a lot of people. You've mentored quite a few influential people. What thoughts do you have about mentorship? Do you have a mentorship? Do you have a philosophy of mentorship?
Yeah, it's aspirations. People don't even understand their own aspirations most of the time. They're bound in by pressures and challenges and limits. But they really do, when you listen to them, know where they want to go. And that's the essence of mentoring, is to listen carefully to what it is they want to accomplish, even if they don't know how to articulate it, and keep listening until you understand it, and then offer them your perspective if they're willing to listen, if they want it. So to me, mentoring is listening and reflecting, and more than that, yeah, it's work. You have to keep up with them, show them the ropes, tell them stories. But no, it can be done. But mostly find out what they want to do and keep up. Even if it's not what you think they ought to do, listen to them. You're an example. So you want to understand what happens to alcohol in the brain and vice versa. That's a hard thing to study, but you wanted to, right? That just made me happy to see you do it so well. So,
And your collaboration and support was key. It was necessary for what I've done in that area. So,
yeah.
thank you.
But well, look, doing it gave me the joy. I hope you're happy too. That's good.
Yes. For researchers at the start of their career, do you have any advice to offer?
Oh, yeah, sure. Find a mentor. Be honest with them. Don't fool yourself. Don't chase dollars. Work hard for the ideas you believe in. Give back when you get there. We're in this together. So, yeah, enjoy it.
And for researchers in general, do you have anything that you would ask of us in the community?
Let's see, it sounds critical. I don't mean it to be. Do you realize we're in this together? I mean, I can compete with you or collaborate with you, but why are we doing this? We're in it for the same goals. Let's get along. I'm asking, am I asking much? I mean, sometimes people just have the strangest attitude towards revealing what they think or sharing what you think. Doesn't make sense to me. So I'm asking of researchers, let's get along, let's do this together. How's that?
I agree.
Yeah,
That's
yeah, well.
very positive view. Yeah. And constructive.
It is constructive. It gets further along the pathway of where we're headed. Even if we're not sure where that's going, it gets us further down.
For members of the public who may watch this video, do you have anything that you would like to say to them?
Thanks. You funded this. You gave me a chance to contribute. And I appreciate it. It's been a joy, and I really appreciate your paying attention and funding it. You're the people that paid for this, so great.
Thank you, Dr. O'Connor. Is there anything else that you would like to add?
No, no,
Okay.
thanks. I appreciate the opportunity. This was good for you, good for me. Thank you. Good for you for doing this.
You gotta take the crowd. It's your relationship.
Oh.
Sorry.
Okay.
Normally, it's not good when I make people cry.
I was about to.
Okay, so I'll edit that. Then you had some observations about TK. Can I come back and then we can stick those? You've already said some things. I've pulled material, but you have some. You've written. This text that you wrote was really helpful for me as we went along. So then, would you like you mentioned? You said, let me go back to TK. Share a couple of anecdotes. Would you mind recounting those? One was about Henry Bedlighter and the airline.
Yeah.
There was the COGA meeting.
TK was important to me. He's one of the very few people in my life where you have to be careful of what you ask them about yourself, because they'll tell you honestly about yourself. He's just an honest guy. And that got him a long way, got him into some trouble. But it was a great principle that I think I learned from him to behave that way. He, as I think I said, taught me to focus and collaborate. Let's see, stories. I'll just tell stories about TK. He was at when COGA, the consortium on or collaboration on genetics of alcoholism, was being formed. Well, even before that, I'll go back. Both TK and Henry Bedlighter invested their own money in buying a package of 50 airline tickets to Washington, D.C., their own cash. And 2 to 3 times a month, they would go down there for a day and bang on senators' doors and congressional doors and talk about genetics of alcoholism, which was a strange idea at the time, and one the NIAAA wasn't particularly interested in funding. Through 2 years of work that resulted in a line item budget directed to learning about the genetics of alcoholism. NIAAA took it over and managed it well. It became COGA, but Henry and TK never told anybody about their personal investment. Big stuff. Henry got me involved in COGA. It was being formed as a collaboration of 7 universities with big personalities engaged from each. We were sitting in a meeting talking intensely about what methods were going to be used. And there was one man who's a world-renowned geneticist who insisted that everybody do it his way. This was the only right way to do it. And people around the table had resisted that idea and talked about alternatives, but he kept coming back and saying, no, this is the right way. And I was young and foolish and spoke up and said, Graeme, do you understand that people here don't want you to tell them what to think? And the room went absolutely quiet. It just stopped. And I looked around the table and everybody was looking down at their notes because this guy was capable of hurting people. There was one person looking back at me and grinning from ear to ear, and that was TK. Just said, great, speak the truth. And we worked out the methods that included his and others and came up with a better. But TK was giving me assurance at the moment and ever since that if you speak the truth as you see it, life works. So that was big positive. Henry was looking up, but he wasn't smiling. So what are you doing at the end of your career? Good times. Those are good times. What else? TK taught me you don't need to like somebody to respect them, their work and their accomplishments. Look what they accomplish. He taught me never quit, keep at it. And he would challenge me. He would really tear down my thoughts, my ideas, and force me to stand up for them until they worked. NIAAA funded at one time 20 years ago a DARPA. That's a throw money at a particular problem in the military. DARPA approach to solving problems. And NIAAA was constrained at the time to spend 10% of their budget in a DARPA model of high risk, high payoff ventures. And we proposed a way of inserting a sensor under the skin that would sense alcohol and report it. It failed. We got it to work in the lab and we got it to work in rats, but we couldn't get it to work in people because the FDA wouldn't let us put in the toxic chemicals that went with it. We didn't know what we were doing. Along the way, I learned that the way to succeed in DARPA is to never quite solve the problem because they'll shovel more money at you. So I didn't learn that from me, but from the people I worked with. We're always almost getting to the solution, but not quite. One more year of funding. And this turned into corruption in my part. So I went to TK, he was then running NIAAA, and said, this is a problem. We're not going to get there, but we're going to drain you of money trying to get there unless you stop it. So he stopped the project, which was the correct thing to do, and stopped the DARPA model from being a big part of NIAAA. So again, he wasn't afraid of truth, and I value that highly. I'm not even sure what question you asked, but that was
just that sort of open about TK. Yeah. Then you had written something down here about the half-life of fame. I think I love that one.
Well, TK taught me that too. He said when he was taking off to run our AAA, and I couldn't go with him My family was in Indianapolis and going to stay. We were talking about the end of his career in academia. He was going into government administrative work. I said, aren't you going to miss the appreciation of your publications? Because he had like 450 publications. The people know you for what you do. He said, you know, fame based on publications and funding lasts 15 minutes after you die. It's a half-life. Don't count on leaving a legacy based on your publications. It's the people and what they do you leave behind, and what they're doing. As he was leaving me, excuse me, as he's leaving me behind to do the work. That is legacy. There are the people who carry on based on your influence and collaboration. So I got to tell you 3 people. Vijay Ramchandani was a postdoc. Marty Pilecki was an MD Ph.D. student. And Ulrich Zimmerman was an investigator from Germany who just wanted to learn about what we're doing. All 3 of them spent their years of effort and dedication to that influence of IV alcohol. And it wouldn't have happened without them. But there they are, keeping on going. I talked to Marty this morning, and he's got so many ideas and grants that it won't stop. So that TK working for another generation. It's in good hands. They're good. Yeah. So go work with them. You work with them.
I did. I would say those are the people that I look up to.
Really?
Marty and Vijay
Yeah.
and Ulrich helped me measure, use the balloon method to measure breath alcohol
In the scanner. Yeah. He invented that
Yes, he
when he
did.
was here. Yeah. Yeah. This, where did they come from? And they just walked into my life.
I don't know.
Yeah, literally. Marty showed up at the door one day as a graduating Purdue engineering student in Purdue and said, "You're an MD, you were an engineer, take me on."
There you go.
Okay. And he's been ever since. Now he's running the place. So. And
I can repeat it because or here.
Yeah, can you repeat it? Yeah. So basically, what I want, my career has been very much shaped by candidate team study. Yes.
You know what? Okay, what's the question?
Okay. So my career, I started out in candidate gene studies and combining that with imaging.
Yeah.
And then we moved to GWAS. And now the field is very focused on sort of epidemiological level studies. So I'm wondering if you think there's any place for mechanistic testing in humans of genetic hypotheses, right, outside of these large samples. Does that make sense?
You know, I'm not a geneticist. I support them.
Yeah.
I work with them, and I appreciate what they're doing. It seems to me, and this is crazy when I talk about it, that they're missing the genes they ought to be studying, and those are the ones that protect 85% of the people from getting in trouble.
Yeah, that's an excellent point.
And it's not just the genes of predisposition that you're missing. There must be genes that, well, I'm Irish. I know there are genes that set me up, but I'm also Scottish.
Yeah.
And I have genes that protect me. Where are they? Nobody's studying those.
Yeah, that's an excellent point.
The more I learn about epigenetics, the more impressed I am. Seem to be flowering. So I don't know how to answer your question directly because that's not my expertise. But I'm curious, what are the protector genes and how would you go about finding those?
Yes, I love it. That's an excellent. Since I have you, let me just check if there's anything else that we definitely want to ask you. See. Okay, this is a little, we're going to go back to people for just one more time. If you could ask TK or anything today, or you could say anything to him today, what would it be?
This probably won't go on tape, but
that's okay. We can cut it out.
I was coming into this is personal. I'll just tell you personally. When TK was dean of research, he got stomach cancer. But he went for 3 different biopsies, and all the people who were reading the biopsies wouldn't tell him whether he had stomach cancer or not, because he was the dean. They didn't want to be the person who told the dean he had cancer when he didn't, or he didn't have cancer when he did. So he wasn't getting anywhere, and he was very frustrated one day, saying, "How do I do it?" I said, "Stop acting like a dean. Go find a place where you can be a patient." So he went off to Mayo and had his stomach out a week later, and then he came back quite depressed on the limits in his life that he just adopted. So we had a party at our house for his friends to literally dig him out of his home because he was staying home, to come to the party and celebrate. And we had no idea what he could eat. So we had every kind of green thing,
Right.
tasty thing, fruit thing. And he got there and laughed and said, "Where's the fat? I have such a small stomach that all I can eat is fat." So he and Susan, his wife, became personal friends at the level of that. All right, so I was coming to RSA 2 days ago in the airport at Minneapolis. Up walked this young man who, for the world, looked like TK. Turned out to be his grandson, who's
Wow.
in the field of study and is looking for a place to start.
Wow.
Hey,
Very cool.
yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.